What up, gamers, and welcome to the Meta Report. So, as you can see here, I have the top TFT comps on Meta TFT. I have it sorted by top 4 share, which is a stat that I honestly feel extremely foolish for not using before. So this is just the percentage of games that these comps are top 4 in. So whenever you play a game, there's a 17% chance that there will be a Porcelain Ashe that is top 4 Master Plus, of course. So I think it's an amazing stat to sort by, especially when we're doing the Meta Report. So if you guys are new here, what we'll be doing in the Meta Report is we're going to be going through all of the top comps. So we have it sorted by top 4 share. And the core of this is I want to just describe to you what the overall meta is if you're confused as to how you should kind of be interfacing with TFT right now. And then the other thing, the big thing that I like to teach you guys in these videos is the indicator when you are supposed to play these compositions, what you can identify early on in the game of stage 2, stage 3 that lets you know, okay, I'm the Ashe player. I have the best spot for Kai'Sa. I have the best spot for Syndra. So that's the goal of the video. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. So first up is Porcelain Ashe. And I would not really call this a porcelain build. I mean, you do dip into the vertical, but this is more of Invoker Ashe. If you guys played the last patch, Invoker Ashe, Porcelain Ashe, they kind of roll over each other, I guess. But I don't want to call this Porcelain Ashe because I don't want to mislead you into thinking you only play this whenever you have a porcelain emblem. Now, if you want to play Ashe, it is a lot easier when you have a porcelain emblem because you're able to get the 4 porcelain, 4 invoker, 3 mythic online at level 8. Whereas if you don't have the emblem, it's a little bit more tricky to do so on 8, and you usually will end up 3 out of 4 porcelain until you can go level 9. So that is a difference there. So when do you look to play Ashe comp? It is the most contested comp in the game right now, but the times you look to play this is if you have an AD opener. Pretty simple. I think a very good strategy on this patch right now, as you can see, the 2 top comps in the top 4 share are both the 4-cost AD carries. So a really good strategy on this composition is, on this patch, is if you have an AD opener, like either the Caitlyn Senna opener, like dipping in the Ghostly Bruiser, or if you have the Sivir, Storyweaver, Warden style opener, either of those openers, just slam Last Whisper and you can play either of these compositions. Now, if you end up slamming a Rageblade, you'll almost certainly want to play Ashe, unless you just get insane tempo from that. You can go Rageblade Kai'Sa or put a Rageblade on Xayah or something like that. You don't want to. You really don't want to. So the best strategy is just to slam Last Whisper in an Infinity Edge and then flex that into Ashe or Kai'Sa. And just depending on which one you hit, you can build their item, either the Rageblade, you can save the components, or if you get the components, you build it, it gives you a lot of tempo. Or you can build something like Spear of Sojin for Kai'Sa or just more damage, Giant Slayer, whatever. I'd be good to go, but you really do want to have a Rageblade on Ashe. It really turns her up. But if you have a lot of tempo, you can just do full 80 items and you'd be good to go. So a good thing is, like, you slam these items and then you just look around in the lobby and see if, sometimes you'll just see in the lobby that you're 4-way contested for Ashe, but you actually still have the items and the setup to play Kai'Sa. Just play Kai'Sa. And that can be fine as well. So that's something that's really important to do on this patch. So if you want to play the actual Ashe comp, now you can just flex and play like a bunch of random 4 costs, but the ideal Ashe comp is usually going to be, you're going to play 4 Invoker, and that is the core is going to be Kog'Maw, Lilia, Annie, +1. The +1 is always Azir, of course, but before you hit Azir, a Loon is great here because she gives attack speed to Ashe and your whole backline. But also Janna can be fine as well if you don't want to play a Loon, you don't want to spend the econ on that. And then your front line will always be Nautilus, Amumu, and then you'll play Lysandra or Lux on 8, ideally Lysandra, of course. And then your level 9 will be the other one that you didn't play, Lysandra or Lux. And you'll be good to go. And that'll hit you the 4 porcelain threshold. If you do end up having a porcelain emblem, you do not need to play Lux, and you could just play an extra slot here. Just a really good unit can be good to go, like a Set or an Udyr or something like that, and that'll be good as well. Let's talk about Bruiser Kai'Sa. So again, like I just talked about when I talked about Ashe, any AD opener, you can look to play Kai'Sa or Ashe, slam Last Whisper, IE, and you have really good flex potential. And then whenever we play this comp, it's really easy. So if you end up slamming items like Spear of Sojin and you're not going to have Rageblade components, you see that a lot of people are playing Ashe, then look to play Kai'Sa, you're going to be good to go. And then you'll dip into, you'll just play the Bruisers. It's really easy. So you just play the 4 Bruisers, which is Galio, Silas, Riven, Aatrox is going to be the default. And then on your level 8, and you'll just play the other trick shots, which is going to be Teemo, Sivir, and Xayah. Before you hit Xayah, of course, just play Bard. And then, you can side carry. Silas is usually going to be your best side carry. Just slam like leftover AP items. Frontline AP items like this can be good to go. And you can also additionally side carry a Teemo, especially if you have the trick shot augment, the Lucky Ricochet. It makes Teemo into a beast. Like a 2-star Teemo actually is a Giga Chad. So if you have leftover AP items, they can go there. You can also, especially if you don't have Lucky Ricochet, you do not have to play 4 trick shot. You can end up dropping Teemo and Sivir. Obviously, you'll lose your Story Weaver bonus, but you could play like on 8. You could play Udyr Ornn that gives you Ink Shadow, and Ornn is just a beast of a unit. So consider doing that. But if you play the 4 Bruiser variation, 4 Bruiser, 4 trick shot, your level 9 is just Udyr. Pretty easy. If you really want to get hypey with it, you can like drop and go to Udyr, drop out of 4 Bruiser, go to like Udyr Ornn, Azir. I can get a little fancy with it. And then if you want to giga cap, like you actually really want to play for first place, you have a huge lead, then you'll cap on Lord Kai'Sa. I mean, that's pretty much the highest cap of pretty much every comp is going to be dipping into Lord most of the time, unless you're playing a strict vertical. That's just how Lord is structured. Like 4 and 5 Lord is just nutty in the late game. Okay, next up, let's talk about Faded Syndra, and Meta TFT is actually recommending this incorrectly. You don't actually play for Aphelios anymore. Now you totally can. If you have like an amazing Aphelios spot, like you start the game with like a Rage Blade and an extra bow, like, and you have an Aphelios pair, okay, cool, we can play Aphelios reroll, that's fine. But ideally, we're just playing for Syndra, and you want to play this whenever you have a Faded opener, like a 2-star Ahri, 2-star Yasuo, and like a Faded emblem. That is like a great indicator. So if you have the Faded, you're playing like a portal where there's a spat, or like you can get a Faded emblem, then it's really good to play Syndra. You can play Syndra without, like Syndra Faded without a Faded emblem. It's just way better with the Faded emblem. Okay, so if you have the Faded emblem, you're actually not going to play Aphelios Ashe. You'll pretty much play all of the Faded units that are not Aphelios, and you're not going to play Ashe. And so you just want to get to 7 Faded on 8, and we're going to actually play around 4 Arcanist, unless you are playing the Aphelios version, in which case, pretty easy. You just play Aphelios Ashe. Pretty easy. You'll put your Faded onto an Ornn or onto an Alawi, because instead of Ashe Aphelios, we're going to be playing Alawi and another Alawi Lissandra. Sorry, we'll play Alawi Lissandra, and your Faded demo will go on Ornn or Lissandra or Alawi. Any of those are fine, but yeah, Ornn is always great with that. And we're going to be playing 4 Arcanist. And for Arcanist, Syndra carry is the ideal. And we'll look for items like blue buff, 1 damage amp. Usually that's going to be Death Cap or Archangel. JG is acceptable. +1 usually. It's usually not going to be this setup, but it could be this setup. That's fine. And then the Faded bonuses you want to use, once you hit set, it is Syndra Set is the Faded bonus you want to use. But before you hit that, it can be Syndra Thresh, or if Yasuo is still on your board, it can be Thresh Yasuo, and you'll be good to go. And then you go 9, and then you carry your set. You can add like a Nautilus or something if you didn't have a Warden for him on level 9, and you could be good to go. And so the win condition of this composition is a duo carry between Syndra Set, and then if you can hit a 2-star Lissandra, she can pop off for you as well. Sage Morgana, I'm not really going to talk about this comp. I'm not a Sage Vertical believer. I think it is one of the worst verticals in the game, but I do see a world in which like you just high roll this shit and you play Morgana Silas duo carry. Like I could see that happening, but Nah. Okay, next up, let's talk about Heavenly Kayn. So it's just the same thing as last patch, guys. Heavenly. You play this composition whenever you have a Heavenly opener and a 2-star Darius, and you slam like BT, Edge of Night, Hodge, Last Whisperer, those sort of items. And then you go on level 8 and you roll for the Heavenly comp plus Lee Sin, Kayn, more GG. Go 9, play Wukong. Pretty easy. This is not something you should ever force, really. And really just the indicator to play it is if you have this strong Umbral Heavenly opener and you just use that tempo to guarantee a top 4. And then if you get the high cap version of the comp, then it does have good first place potential, as we can see here. Okay, next up is Umbral Alune. And this is another one where Meta TFT actually recommends you to play it incorrectly. And so let's talk about that. So this is not a reroll comp. Now you can reroll Alune, that is a thing, and you can reroll York sometimes if you have his hero augment, of course. But really the idea of this comp is not about rerolling, it's about using the insane tempo that you get from Umbral. So Umbral, as we talked about when we were talking about in Heavenly, is extremely strong early game. If you have a Darius 2-star and a York on your board and some Heavenly splash, like that is so strong on stage 2, stage 3. And you just use that tempo from Darius. You slam like the frontline items on Darius, like the items that you want to go on Yone and Set. You can slam that on him, and then the idea of this composition, you use that tempo on stage 2, stage 3, and then you go to level 7 and you roll for a Alune 2-star, Yone 2-star, and just play 6 Umbral or 4 Umbral with just splashing all the side synergies with like, Alune, Yone, all of their little like 2-trait synergies. So just splash those if you can't get to 6 Umbral. An emblem is really good in this comp. It's kind of funny. There's like some arguments on Twitter I see right now about whether Umbral emblem is good. And to me, it's like so obvious that Umbral emblem is good because you don't have to play like pieces of garbage like Darius and Yone in the late game if you don't want to. You know what I mean? So I really like the emblem because it allows you on 8 to play a lot of extra flex spots like Ornn, Annie, Galio, Azir. There's a lot of extra units you can play. So I really like to play this with an emblem, but you do not have to play with an emblem because, again, you just get a lot of tempo from Umbral. So anyways, we go to level 7, we roll for a Loon and Yone, build items like this on the Loon. These are perfect. This is like best in slots. More Morello Nomicon is, I mean, Biss on her for sure. Yeah, you want healing reduction, mana gen, and then Archangel is just so good. And then frontline AD carry items on Yone. And so how we actually want to play this, we want to stabilize on our 2 stars. If you have Yorick's Hero Augment, you can go for 3 stars for sure. But if we don't have Yorick's Hero Augment, we just want to stabilize on 2 stars on 7. Go to level 8, roll for our Silas, you know, roll for our additional units that we're going to play with the comp. We have an emblem, you can play like a Kayn Ornn or Galio or Annie. You know, just roll for a 4-cost 2-star and slam the emblem on whoever is the strongest there. You can also look for a Morgana. There's some Morgana flex here as well. She's very good with the emblem if you have extra AP items. And so look for that. And then as soon as we hit set, we will sell Yone and move the items over to set, and then we don't need to play Kayn anymore if you're playing Kayn on your board. So as soon as we do that, we will sell and move those over. Unless you are high rolling Yone 3, we do not go for it. And then we go 9 and we carry our set, Silas, a Loon, and you know you can splash in stuff like Azir, Morgana, stuff like that, and you'll be good to go. I think we're gonna stop here soon. I'm gonna briefly touch on these, and then I'll talk about Gnar and Arcanist, I think is what we really want to talk about. Duelist, I think are fine. If you have the dual single guys, you get like the Duelist augments, like it can be fine. I don't think this comp's very good though, personally. And you know, you just carry Galio, Tristana, and then cap your board on Aurelia, Lisa, and GG. Pretty easy. I'm not gonna talk about any Dragonlord comps. Guys, if you go fast 9, shocker, play 4 Dragonlord plus a 2-star 5-cost carry that you have items for. Pretty easy. You can carry Azir, Hui, Aurelia, Xayah, any of those. That's Dragonlord. If you can go fast 9, you look to play Dragonlord. Pretty easy. Next up, let's talk about Gnar. So as you can see, this composition has an insanely high win rate, but the pick rate is pretty low and the top 4 share is pretty low because you only want to play this comp when you have the indicator. If you try forcing this, not very good. A couple patches ago before this comp was super OP, I was forcing this comp a lot. And if you got like the high roll, it was a guaranteed first. And if you didn't, it wasn't that great. It was like a top 6 build. So that's still how I kind of look at it. Except for the high end is just a little bit higher than before. So the indicator to play this composition, usually, like this is a very augment dependent comp. Usually like the times you want to play this, if you start the game with a Dryad emblem, or you start the game with like a Gnar pair mulched, like that's like the opener. Like Gnar pair and you get offered mulch, now you have a Gnar 2, like what the hell? Or you start the game with like a Kindred pair, you know, like that's really the indicator to play it. And then after that, you are just juiced by gold augments. So really like a good portal to play this on is Golden Gala, because all of the best augments for this comp, almost all of them are gold. So yeah, mulched on 2-1 or 3-2 is going to be amazing for you. Dryad Crest is good, not necessary to play the comp, but it is good. Gargantuan is like a little bit fake. It is very good, but it's like a little fake. You definitely don't need this because I don't even think Gnar's Biss is even building Titans, and we'll talk about that in a second. It hasn't been for a long time, by the way. Featherweights is very good. Heavy hitters is like the Gigabiss. Like if you get offered, if you have like mulched and then you get offered heavy hitters on 3-2 or 4-2, like you're going first. Epitaph super good. Baboom is crazy on 4-2. Go straight Dicko mode, especially if you built a blue buff or an adaptive helm on your Kindred. It'll just go straight crazy. So let's talk about the composition. So when you play this composition, you just want to stabilize on 2 stars on stage 3. So you want to roll on 3-2 for 2-star Kindred, 2-star Gnar, and the level 6 board. So this is another one where meta TFT actually recommends the wrong build. So let's talk about this on level 6. You do not play Shin. Shin never goes in your comp. It's ever on level 8 or sometimes level 7. If you do not have an emblem, your level 6 will always be Ornn here if you hit an Ornn. If you do not hit an Ornn, you just play a random Reaper. Ideally, the Reaper you want to play is Kayn, and you'll be sitting on 3 Dryad if you do not have a crest. If you have a crest, if you have a Dryad emblem, then the Dryad emblem will go on either Alawi or Aatrox. If you look like you could 3-star Aatrox, goes on Aatrox. If not, 2-star Alawi is the best. And so if you have the crest, and then you'll play a Reaper here. You'll play either Kayn or Kha'Zix usually. Ideally, you want to play Kayn, and then your level 7 then could be a Shin or another ghostly unit could then be added on 7 if you have the emblem. If you do not have the emblem, your level 7 is Kayn Ornn, and then level 8 is going to be Kayn Ornn plus either Shin or Morgana. A Shin is cheaper, Morgana is a better unit. Pretty easy there. And then ideally, whenever you play this comp, you want to just keep dipping into the vertical of Ghostly and Dryad. So if you have the emblems, dip into Ghostly. If you have the emblems for Dryad, dip into Dryad. And by default, if you have to choose, 6 Dryad is the best. So that's pretty simple there. Let's talk about itemization because this is where people get this composition wrong quite a bit. So let's talk about Kindred first because this is really easy. Kindred's build is Morello or red buff plus mana gen. So blue buff or adaptive. Sojourn is not very good, and sword is a really valuable component for your frontline. So you want to go for that. Third is just +1. So the +1 can be Death Cap, Archangel, Guardbreaker, GS. Any of those are fine, but you just want to go for these, especially if you have the Baboom setup. Have any blue buff or adaptive helm is going to be straight Dicko mode for you. Gnar, let's talk about Gnar's itemization. And this has been true for a long time, has been true in the data, has been true anecdotally when I've tested this. Gnar's best in slot is Bloodthirster, Bloodthirster +1. And the +1 is usually Titans. So Bloodthirster, Bloodthirster, Titans, Bloodthirster, Bloodthirster, Sterak's, or Bloodthirster, Sterak's, Titans, or Bloodthirster, Hand of Justice, Titans is going to be your gigabus. If you have mulched and heavy hitters, you're definitely better off not even building a Titans and just slamming as many Sterak's and Bloodthirsters as you can. You're going to be good to go there. The only time you actually want to build 2 Titans, it doesn't mean building 2 Titans is bad. It's just ideally you'd rather have 2 BTs if you're going to have a copy of a single item here. The only time that building double Titans is preferable is if you have Gargantuan's Resolve. Other than that, your leftover items are going to go on either your 3-star Aatrox, 3-star Lowy, or 3-star Rek'Sai. You do want to have a Redemption, and a Even Shroud is really powerful in this comp. You can put that on your Rek'Sai. If you get a Rek'Sai 3, place it next to Gnar. If not, you want to put it on a Lowy or Aatrox, whoever is going to be the most tanky, and then place them next to Gnar. You want to have all your ghostly units jammed next to Gnar and Kindred, positioning on the wing. Not like this. You want to have Gnar all the way on the wing, Kindred right behind to apply the healing debuff, and then all the ghostly units stacked together. Unless you have a Rek'Sai 3 and Rek'Sai is itemized with those aura items that we want next to Gnar, then in which case we'll have all the ghostly units stacked on the opposite side, which is a little awkward, but as soon as Gnar kills the first unit, he'll start hitting the ghostly targets. It's okay. But we just want to have the aura items from Rek'Sai if we're going to build the Redemption, and the Even Shroud, we want to have that next to our Gnar, and we'll be good to go. And Rek'Sai is like a beast at 3-star, especially if you have mulch and you're going into the vertical Dryad. Like, Rek'Sai is a beast, great with items. Next up, let's talk about Arcanist Syndra. So I'm just going to talk about Arcanist builds in general here, and this is really going to be the last one I'm going to talk about. So you want to look to play Arcanist Vertical pretty much anytime you get an Arcanist opener, or if you get any of the augments for it. So if you get an Emblem opener, or it's also really good if you're on Champion Conference, because you can guarantee you hit Lysandra and guarantee you hit Syndra on stage 4. Like, that is really powerful. And you just play around 6 Arcanist, Mumu, Alawi. That is pretty simple. If you have leftover AD item, like if you have a bunch of AD items, you can play like some Faded, Aphelios Ashe stuff. But in general, you just want to grab AP items. And the cool thing about playing Arcanist is there's a lot of versions of it, and you can roll on any stage, which feels really nice. So if you get like a Porcelain Augments and stuff like that, and you're hitting a lot of Lux, you can look to play Lux reroll, roll on 6 and 7. If you are uncontested for Zoe reroll is really strong on this patch. So if you get items to play Zoe, like, you know, it's just like Sojourn plus AP items. You look to play Zoe reroll. If you don't see that you're contested, play Zoe Syndra duo, you know, or you could just play like normal and like roll at every stage, be strong, same items on Lux and Zoe, and then later move your items to Syndra and Lysandra, and you play around Faded, 4 Warden. You know, once you hit set and you go 9, you play 6 Arc, 4 Warden. Especially if you have any emblem there, it's really easy. So that's what I really like playing about. That's what I really like about playing Arcanist. Is there's a lot of versions you can play it at any time. I mean, like Mythic, like I'm not gonna talk about this. Like if you're playing around Mythic, like Kog'Maw reroll is just terrible. And if you're playing around Mythic, you usually are just going to play Ashe for Invoker, usually. But sometimes you can, like, especially if you get Hot Blossom or Drop Blossom or whatever, then you could play like Nico reroll, Lilia with Lilia side carry. Like that can be some tech there, but do not play Kog'Maw reroll. Anyways, guys, that is it for the meta report. Good luck climbing. Good luck on the next patch, and I'll see you later. Bye.